Hello and welcome to the lecture. So let's continue with more customizations on the interactive grid. And previous we saw about adding this action, and even before that we rendered this. Now we will start with removing some of the actions which are already defined at the initial stage. So we will try to remove some elements, and let's say we don't have this save button, we don't want this. We can achieve that using the from the attributes that we saw about the JavaScript initialization. Even that can be achieved here. So going here, we have this code which are written for the editing form that has pushed it and even defined that corresponding action. And now if you want to remove some action, there are multiple ways to do that. And for removing the action which is under the menu, like under this hamburger, or even under the actions which are part of this, can be removed easily by getting their action name. So for getting this action name, we can use the toolbar data and we can console it and get their action names what we want to see. So let's console that by using this, and I will put the toolbar data here. I'll copy this and putting the toolbar data so that we can get the list of actions. So we can see, right, we're getting the exact every toolbars what are rendered. So from that we will first get the name, then we will proceed with removing those corresponding actions. Only by knowing the action name we can remove it. So if I go to console, and here the array is displayed in the console which we logged it now, and here you can see the toolbar data. And as I said earlier, this holds all the rendered ones in the form of a group, and this one is the first one is the search group which I said, and it has own action names. The search groups has some 3 controls, this one and this text field and the go button. So there are the 3 things. If you note the type, the menu button first, this is a kind of a menu system, and that has the action, it's on having the subdivision here, and this is a separate action under this menu. This is dynamic thing, it populates based on the column names. So we'll go to the next group now. So going to this reports, we have a controls there. So inside that controls object we have the action. So this is the action for the change report. So this one is the action, and even we have skipped this search field, even that has some action like search, and even the go button has action search. This is the enter action, that is for the enter key action. This is the click action by default, so that's why we skipped it. But we can focus on this part in the save and add row side. Now we saw about this one with the primary report, right, which is about the views, not the views, that's a report. Views are not rendered here, but we can make it rendered by going to chart and define some chart. It will be rendered. This is the view next action, it is hidden at the start. Let's refresh this. So go to the views, it has the controls, and this one is a radio group type, and it has the action change view. So now with the actions 1, we have this one. It will have the same as here, the further menus with each action defined. Columns will be one action, and this will be a sub menu action. We'll come back to this. And if we want to go to the next actions 2 holds the edit and save. So it has 2 controls, and with this control we have the toggle, that is the edit action, and also we have the next one, that is the save action. So I know this is a bit very bit confusing for those who are new to JavaScript, but it's not a problem. It's not just you have to be more learning about this, how this is done. It's just for a more customization. You will be digging too much for this to learn. That's the thing. So I just gave a overview of how this JavaScript is rendered from the code which we have written. So only based on these objects, these are things are happening internally to render this. So that's the thing. So this objects we have shown up to actions 2. So next actions 3 is add row and our own customized one which we have added here. So this has the actions 3 and we are gonna pushing it here as we saw earlier. So that's the one. So actions 3 and then actions 4 which has the reset button alone, and it has the action name as reset report. So each button or any kind of radio button or a toggle or a select list or menu also have some common action. So based on the actions we can decide whether to remove that action or not indirectly, but some cases it may not work because of the edit and save and add row. These are like buttons rendered already, but for those which are rendered as separate under the menu, this will work, and even here. So this also has an action, and it's not rendered as a toolbar here because this is a part of the IG, and we will try to remove action here. Let's say we don't want this columns and we don't want to show it to the user because it has some some kind of checkbox to display and hide it. So we don't want to show the user this columns menu, so we can do that. That is in actions 1. So if I go to the actions 1, I didn't expand this. So this has some controls, and here we have the menu, sub menu. This has the sub menu, and inside that we have the items. I'm just focusing where we have array, that's the thing. So don't confuse that with, I'm not going this actions context, and that are a bit with respect to the HTML side. So I'm going to this items, and here you can see that there are action names, right? So each action button, like the columns, having the show columns dialog, and then we have a separator that is also a separate object, and this separator, and then the filter, and that has the show filter dialog action, then data, which is a sub menu, and that also has a further actions here that we can see that by expanding, but we are not focusing that now. Just for a thing, this each thing has an action, so we are gonna focus this show columns dialog. So let me copy this one. I'm copying this. So how to remove that, we can define from this init actions function. So we have actions.add, and we can also remove that, but this won't work on save and add row or edit because those are pre-rendered buttons, and these buttons are rendered once these top buttons actions are initialized. So whatever is in the submenu, we can remove that using actions.remove, and we are gonna paste that what we copied, and if we click OK and save it. Okay, so now we are refreshing, and we'll see that now in this actions button, and you can see that the columns is gone because that was removed from the object, and it won't be seen here as well. Let me quickly open this up. Actions 1, controls, and type, yes, menu, items, and here you can see that we have removed, but it has some attribute like hide true. So that means it is hidden, but it's not seen as from here. That's the thing. So it is in the object, but it has some new key, that is the hide, that is set to true. By default it will be false maybe, so that's why you can see here hide is false for the filter, and here it hide is true because we have removed it from the actions. So that's about that. And now to remove the actions like the save or edit or add row, we need to dig in too much about how these arrays are having the controls. So basically we have to know about the splice function because we are going to remove the object here. So object removal is the main thing for removing this buttons, because we are gonna use the array here. We are gonna do the splice function, which is part of the JavaScript that will be splicing the arrays. I mean, let's say if you wanna have an array here, so just for an example, so let a equal to, I'm putting a set of numbers 1 2 3 4 5. so a is having 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, so if I put a dot splice has two parameters. The first parameter is the position. So an array, as you know, that has the position of index 0, then position and index are same. So index of 0, 1 2 3 4. Yeah, so it is 0 for 1 and 1 2 3 4. So it starts from 0, and that's where you have to use the splice. Let's say in our case we want to splice the number 4. Okay, we want to splice only the number 4. So in that case, what is the position? It is 3. So I'm gonna put 3 here, and the second parameter, the minimum value is 1. It is the length of the trim. So I mean, if I put 1 means only the 4 will be trimmed. If I put 2 means both 4 and 5 would be trimmed. Means it starts from 4. If I use 1, only 4 will be trimmed, and then if I use 2 instead of 1, it will remove 4 and 5 because there are 2. So in that way it works. So I'm putting 1 for now because we want to remove 4, and as you can see, it is returning me the spliced one, but we have to return the set, right? So if I put the a, and you can see that it is removed, so this returns me the spliced one. That's why. So that's the thing. So this splices that, and now we can see in another more example. Like I'm just put it b, then let b is equal to, because I have used let keyword. So now we'll just put b dot splice of 3 comma 2. Maybe you don't want 4 and 5 as well. So if I put that, the 4 and 5 are the popped up ones. So now we can see the result of b as 1 2 3. So this is the one. So this is the main concept we are gonna see with the, with the config or removing this objects, I mean the arrays here. And if you refresh, let me start with a group. So each thing is an array, right? So this is an array, and we are having a group. So inside the group, we are just having the controls object. So inside the controls only, we have to think that as an array. So let's say we are using the toolbar data, that is an array, and using the toolbar find, we can get the list of the actions. Suppose this actions 3 means I can get the controls thing, right? So it has 3 things. So it has array of 3 collections. So in those 3 collections, we have to splice it. So actions 3 has, add row, edit form, right? Actions 3, I guess. No, I'm going to actions 1, right? Yeah, actions 3 has 2 only. So it has 1 button and edit in form. So, and even actions 2 has only 2, the edit and save, as we saw. So we are gonna remove the save button. So we have to select the actions 2 first using the toolbar find, and then once we find, it will be in some toolbar group array, and from there using the controls we are pushing it, right? This is also an JavaScript object, so basically push works the same as the JavaScript. So we are pushing that. Now we are gonna splice that, splice with index. Okay, we are gonna push with name earlier, now we're gonna splice with index. So if I gonna push, not push it, splice this save button, so I have to go with the different toolbar group, because this toolbar group holds the actions 3. So we are gonna rename this for better understanding. Maybe I'll put toolbar group 1 and 1 as well. Let me check if I have any other things here. Only 2 instances. Okay, So I will put another one for actions 2. I will put toolbar group 2 here and actions 2 here, and this will be toolbar 1 because we are going to push it in actions 3. So this would be actions 2. Okay, so I'm just commenting this will be actions 3, and now we will work on the actions 2. Okay, so actions 2, we are gonna splice it. So it works the same. We are gonna come from the controls, because the controls has the array. We're gonna splice this button, yes, the save button. So we're gonna select the second array. I mean, if the array is having 0 and 1, we have to get the result as only the 0. We are gonna splice that 1 in that way. So we are gonna splice it. So just copy this and pasting it. This will be toolbar group 2, and I'll splice that. So splice it, and we are gonna splice the second one. So edit is the first instance, like 0, and save is the second instance, the index 1. So we are gonna start from 1, that is the second instance, which is the save, and we are gonna remove that save again because that's only one thing and there's nothing followed, and we want to remove only the save. So I'm gonna use this. So now this will be spliced, and also we are gonna, this will be spliced, right? And we are reassigning the toolbar data again. So now toolbar data is modified, and we are gonna reassign to this config, and finally it is returning here. So we need not do anything, so it will handle automatically, just like the push. This slicing also will be handled like that. So now you see that the save is gone. It is spliced, it is removed from that actions, and in the actions 2 which we have spliced, it has only one, that is about the edit alone, edit action alone. So in this way we can splice it in the toolbar level using the toolbar data array, and inside the controls we are gonna do that with the array basic things, like how we are gonna push, we are gonna splice it the same way. So this about splicing, both will work, but actions.remove is about more on the menu side, not works on the main button side, because I tried, it shows me like it returns me the null because it is already defined here at the top level. So that's why. So this about the splicing and removing thing, and more on what we want to see is about defining some more categorization, like we have seen, right? We have defined a button here, edit in form. We can also define like a select list, or we want like a menu, what we want to see. We can define that very easily in this interactive grid. So we are gonna do that. So what we are gonna do is we are gonna use sample things like the this select list for one instance, and even the menu. So this is what you're gonna see. You can also do with this toggle also, which we have here, and this is a radio button, radio group, what is defined, and this is the toggle. The edit mode is like a toggle on and off, like that switch kind of. So this also can be done, but we'll jump into this select list, which will be more useful, and even the menu. So we'll start with the select list. I have written the code already. So this one is about definition. So as you know that we have to define that in an object to push that, and also we need to define the actions in the config.init actions, which we have seen. So first we'll go with the select list. I'm gonna define this as an object because I don't want like a more clumsy here. I can just define it globally, and I can use that object. So I'm gonna define that here, and this is having a name called mySelect, which I define the action name, and the type is select. It's a select drop down, just like this. So this is how I defined. So I'll just copy this and I will push it Okay, let me save, and I will push that in the interactive grid toolbar data. So I'll just push that over there, and I will just remove the existing one. We are gonna do the same ways almost, so we'll just remove this. You can also push like this. It's very simple, right? Just in one line. And actions, we'll just revert this, and even the save, let it be. We are not gonna save for now, and we'll come back to that later on, how to achieve some external save. And this one, we are gonna add one new action here. So let me comment this, because I'll be using this one, and I'm gonna copy this. What is the action I have written? I will explain this. So this works like the select list, as I said, and let me just format this verb. Okay, so we will just start with what we are gonna see. Same as the name, we are gonna define the action name so that it will be mapped into this object. And for select dropdown, we have a new object, that is the choices. That's an array that explains list, like label, which is the display one, and the value, which is the return one. So whenever we are gonna select A, it will be returning 1, and B, it will be returning 2, just like a select list, as you have seen in the Oracle APIX 1. So we are gonna console.log it. It has two objects for a JavaScript. That's a generic one. So whenever we add an object to an event, we can track it, whatever it is on the focus side. So the second object holds that, and using the second object, we can get the value which is gonna be selected. So that's the one. So we'll be seeing now, and yes, so I'm just saving it, and we'll see that new button now. Yes, so this is the new button that is replaced with that old one, because we commented that, right? And now we can see the two options, A and B. As I said, the labels A and B are displayed. And let me clear this. So A will be giving one value, and B will be giving another value. So that's how it's working. So if I can see that it's returning me the focus element, the value 1, and it's also returning me the focus element of this part. So that's how it is happening. This is how we can render the select list, and already you can explore more on that by defining the focus element or the event. We can also put the console.log of event, and you can try to play around that. And if we can see from the event side, and if I try to select this, it's returning me this event, right? So it has the target. So even you can get the target, what is selected. So if I go here, event dot target, that's another object. So you can even get that. Let me select this again, and yeah, so we're gonna get the same. So event.target is almost the same as the focus element, and that's the difference, and it returns me the same thing. So from there we can get the value here. So if we put event.target.value, it's outside, yes. So if I select this, it's returning me the selected one. So whatever the selected, I can get that. So this is about what is gonna be, and even it works with the focus element as well. So I'm just teaching the JavaScript side now, so just for an understanding how this is done. And focus element dot value also returns the same thing. So whatever the focus element is done, we can get that. So 2 is written and A is written. So we will use this for our more our application side. Maybe we'll take some two values, like from the city that displays, and the return will be the store. So we'll take Seattle and Chicago, and we will put those corresponding things in the quick manner. So Seattle, the value in the ID is 3, and Chicago, the value is 5. And we are gonna open the model dialog by using this one, and I will paste it, and this key is hard-coded early. So now we will make use of this focused element or the event.target with this. So if I paste this, I can now go to the selected one directly. So that's how it's happening. So I'm just clicking here. So now we will see two options, Seattle and the Chicago. So if I select Chicago, it's redirecting me to the Chicago with the store ID 5. The functions are implemented in the previous lecture, you can refer. And now if I select Seattle, it will redirect me to the ID 3, which is Seattle. So in this way you can do a lot of things, and not only this, just a small example, I'm just using that. You can try to choose some option like the refresh the grid, or you can requery that and use the AJAX callback. Some other ways you can customize on your own. This is just an example here. And now moving on to the next action, that is the menu. So if I go to here, and I'm copying this object, and I will explain what is this. This is a big, right? So I'm just gonna go to the declaration, and I will paste it. There's a big huge line in number, I don't know. So what happens is, here the main type is the menu. So the menu is gonna be having like a same drop down kind of thing, but with some some more options inside that, which has the sub menu and even the separator, like we see in the from the software level. If you can see, if you open file, this one with the sub menu and also with the separator here, right? So the same kind of thing we can make it achievable. So this having the separator and the sub menus, so we can use that, but we have to declare it very properly and very carefully here. So as you can see that we remember that from the previous one we saw about the actions one, right? It has the controls, and you can see from here the same way we are gonna start with the type menu, and in that menu we are gonna use the menu key. And before going to this, what are these are the labels I'll be defining. Label has the help. This will be displaying like actions, right? So it will be having the help, and I'm using an icon. Icon is also possible in this actions. It's not only with this menu, it's possible in all buttons as well. And even you can make it hot also. You can add only the icon instead of the labeling the button. Lots of options are there. I will be sharing those things in the resources. And even from the icon before label means true, means when we are defining the icon, by default it comes after the text. So actions followed by, like you can see the reset, right? It has some icon then the text. So that's why by default it comes text followed by icon. So that means icon before label was false by default. So we're making it true explicitly, so that icon comes first. And then action. This is not much important. I just added for a bit and just for following type and action to hide it, so that I can make use of that to remove or hide. Later on we can see that. And even the next one, which is very important, which I said, the menu which we saw, right? So the menu key holds set of things, right? And we are gonna use only the items key in the as an array. So menu is an object, and that opens the object, and it has an array. I mean the key which is having name as items, and it is an array which is an array of objects, the array of further further actions. So the same thing, so it has type, action, the same thing which we have seen, right? So it will be having the same things which we are going to define from the start. Type, action, the same thing we are going to see. And these are the main properties like type and action. And this I'm adding a label here, label, and even I'm adding an icon. And if you want to disable the menus, like you can add the parameter, the property disabled to true. By default it will be false. You can make it to true. That's your option. So for adding the separator, which you can see from this one, I can add it as here. So type separator, that's enough. And I'm adding a submenu. So submenu will have the name as keyboard shortcuts, like we can see here, having the data, submenu, and sort, aggregate, right? So I'll have a keyboard shortcuts, and it has the further menu key and some icon already. And menu as the same, it repeats. It will have the items key again, and with array of objects. So I have two actions, and that is add row shortcut and delete row shortcut kind of thing. So now you can imagine something how I have implemented based on my declaration of the definition of this menu. So I can push this now, and we'll see that in a bit. And these are the icons which are which are classes, font awesome icons. These are automatically loaded in Oracle Apex by default, and you can make use of that. So we are gonna copy this again and go to the attributes and JavaScript side. So we can paste it here as a comma. So we are pushing it right, so it works just the same as a comma separated. And yes, we didn't define the actions, right? So it won't be rendered if we didn't do any actions. Let me show you. So if I refresh it here, only the help we can see has a menu, but we can't see anything, like it's empty. And I added two things, right? So we have to define an action here, and you can see those icons which are rendered before the label. And we will define the action which I written already, and this has to be added separated. It's not like a push, and it has to be added in like the actions object separately with those objects as the parameter here. So that's about here as well, and all the things are same, only we have the action and function as difference, with having the name and action, that's enough. And even other things, objects are there, like we saw choices here, and we have some more options also, but these are the mandatory ones. So as for now it's enough. So I'm gonna copy this and gonna paste it to the init actions function. So it has to be after this. So after this semicolon, I can paste it, and I will just make this a bit formatted to in that. Yes, okay. So now we are gonna see the thing. So what I'm gonna do, so on click of the first icon, which is anyway disabled, I have set it right, so that is disabled, so it's not gonna do anything. And also the next one, the two buttons on the sub menus, which is about the keyboard shortcuts, it will show two actions. That's gonna show some alert. That's the thing, right? So we'll see that example more, and I'll come back to further explanation. So now I'm going to refresh here, and I'm gonna see those things. So I have disabled this, as you know. It's gonna do nothing, just it's in development, like a mini stage. I'm not gonna show any about. So this help is somewhat friendly to the user to understand about the grid, right? So I just took it as an example, and even a user can make use of the keyboard shortcuts in this grid. So that's why we can design this kind of a way just for an example, and you can show that as an add row. What is the keyboard shortcut for add row? It's just an insert. You can just press the insert key, it will work. Let me press the insert key, and it's working. So, and even for delete, from here the keyboard shortcut for delete, delete works if you are in from the edit mode off, you can delete it. Yes, it's working. So this is about the keys which I just roughly added. It's not much completely added. There are various keys, even you can find it here with the actions. You can get some selection, like here copy to clipboard, it has some keys, right? So selection, you can use that, but still there are some other keys which are not mentioned, so you can make use of some more additional menu that for the interactive grid. So if you want to re-enable this, you can go to the disabled again and either remove it or make it to false here, which I made it for the first button. Just make it to false. Okay, so I'll just save it and we are gonna see those buttons now. The information I just added just the console log in that JavaScript side, so there is nothing much over there. It's just a small console log message, and still we have some more things about the interactive grid with respect to the selection and some other ways to invoke the other actions. Suppose the save button, we can invoke the save button somewhere, or we can invoke the refresh or a duplicate row somewhere from outside the IG also. So in those things we will see more in the next lecture.